You claim you're making billions. Tra-la-la-la-la. Show me the oil revenue so I could believe it is true. Taxpayers' money. Tra-la-la-la-la. Adding more to our economy. Tra-la-la-la-la. Where is the wealth and prosperity? Tra-la-la-la-la. All my optimism is replaced with skepticism. Production costs and profits, tra-la-la-la-la, are considered basic, tra-la-la-la-la, in any decent business, tra-la-la-la-la, but no transparency to the people of this country. Show me your motion, tra-la-la-la-la, don't hide information. Tra-la-la-la-la, you claim you're making billions. Tra-la-la-la-la, show me the oil revenue so I could believe it is true. Now you're running a pipeline without a proper study. You turn expert declaring gas is clean energy. But what about the cost? We'll be running at a huge loss. Tell our leaders not to do this. How can they be so foolish? It is the nation who will pay for the wrong things done today. Show me your motion. Tra-la-la-la-la. Don't hide information. Tra-la-la-la-la. You claim you're making billions. Tra-la-la-la-la. Show me the oil revenue so I could believe it is true.
Kaieteur Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to Kaieteur Radio. Kevin Smith here. Welcome to your news at noon. These are the top stories we are tracking. A Mila Falls hydro project unsuited for Guyana's electricity demands. Dr. Kwesi Sanslut Greenwich says, why invest a $1 billion for so little? Meanwhile, 15 companies bid to market Guyana's oil. Housing Ministry to now construct and sell houses for profit. Marid sends home unvaccinated staff and says non-compliant speedboat operators will lose license. Fatal shooting in Sophia. Murder witness killed as brother escapes death for a second time. And La Penitence woman killed by drunk driver. Meanwhile, true cost of COVID-19 vaccines unknown as Guyana spends $2.2 billion to date procuring coveted drugs, says the health minister. Stay tuned to stay informed.
Guyana is now a full-fledged oil-producing nation. But how much do you know about this valuable yet finite resource? On our radio program, Guyana's Oil and You, we strike at the heart of every issue with informed views and credible data. The time is now for you to arm yourself with insightful knowledge on your oil wealth.
I'm in a rush. Digital got me in a rush. Driving style for the summer. Digital summer rush.
Nobody's doing it big like Digicel this summer. Top up with $1,000 or more and collect the letters to spell the word RUSH for a chance to win one of 3 brand new Toyota Rush SUVs. Yes, you heard it right. 3 brand new Toyota Rush SUVs.
Driving style for the summer. Hey, Digicel summer rush.
Start topping up now.
And now for the news in detail. The PPPC administration is attempting to resurrect one of its failed flagship projects, the Amila Falls hydroelectric project. But eminent critics have already begun to not only question the rationale behind the move, but its location and cost-effectiveness altogether. These concerns have been raised since official pronouncements on Guyana's projected electricity note that the proposed project at 160 megawatts and as adumbrated on Tuesday by President Ali would not suffice. The suppositions were proffered recently by Dr. Kwesi Sanslut Greenwich, a United Nations Development Fund policy advisor, who in a recent public missive noted that, and I quote, "There are a number of questions around the project that still need to be answered, specifically around the cost, location, scale, and the rationale." And in other news, during the opening of tenders yesterday at the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, 15 companies submitted expressions of interest for the provision of marketing services for Guyana's oil entitlement from the Liza Destiny vessel. The procuring entity was the Ministry of Natural Resources. Yesterday, too, under this ministry, bids were also opened for the consultancy to conduct a comprehensive Guyana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, systematic disclosure feasibility study, and consultancy to conduct a comprehensive initiative beneficial ownership register scoping study. Get a list of the companies and their bids in today's Kaieteur News. And moving on. The Ministry of Housing and Water earlier this year inked some $13.9 million in contracts to provide for, among other infrastructure works, the construction of a number of housing units across the low, moderate, and middle to high income brackets. But the expenditure has since attracted queries in the National Assembly, which have now revealed that the ministry is in fact constructing homes to be resold for profit. Housing Minister Colin Crowell disclosed that the ministry is aiming to construct some 2,000 homes across regions 3, 4, and 6. The ministry indicated that while the estimated cost for the construction of the low-income homes are pegged at $5.2 million each, they are earmarked to be sold to citizens falling in the low-income bracket for $5.5 million. As it relates to the moderate income earners, the minister indicated that these homes would cost some $7.2 million, and these would be resold at $7.5 million. Persons falling in the middle and high income brackets will be able to purchase the completed units for between $14 million and $19.5 million, while being constructed at costs ranging between $13 million and $18 million. And moving on, in light of the latest gazetted COVID-19 emergency measures, 50% of unvaccinated employees at Marriott were yesterday morning sent home for failing to take the requisite vaccines. They were informed to only return to their job after addressing this. Yesterday, the government entity also posted a notice on its Facebook page stating that unvaccinated speedboat operators are not allowed to operate and can lose their license if found in breach of the new measures. However, up to press time, no notice was posted in relation to employees being vaccinated before they are allowed to work. And moving on, after escaping death in early 2020, Brandon Smith, a mechanic, had managed to evade a gunman with only the grace of a bullet. While he was able to fight another day, his friend was not so fortunate. Investigators are currently tracking 3 suspects who they believe are involved in the gunning down of the mechanic's friend on Monday at 17 hours 50 along B Field, South Sophia, Greater Georgetown. Police have identified the deceased man, who was also a mechanic, as 21-year-old Jaleel Leo of Dennis Street, Campbellville. The suspects who allegedly murdered him go by the aliases of Big John, Double Clip, and Brainer. It is understood that they were also involved in the killing of Kevin Campbell, the brother of Brandon Smith, to which Smith and Leo were witnesses. And all let's tell you, 23-year-old Janelle David of La Penitence, Georgetown, was killed yesterday morning by a 29-year-old drunk driver who collided with her while she was crossing the road. The accident occurred on Homestretch Avenue, Georgetown, around 4 hours 13. CCTV footage shows David standing in the middle of the road attempting to cross over to the other half, to Durban Park. She was seen making her first attempt but subsequently turned back. The woman was still standing in the middle of the road, but while facing east, a motorcar driven by Delroy Digar, who was proceeding east on Homestretch Avenue at an alleged fast rate, collided with her. Upon impact, David's body was flung into the air and went over the motor car. The guy was arrested and placed in custody after failing a breathalyzer test. And now let's tell you while Guyana has already expended some $2.2 billion on vaccines meant to combat COVID-19, the true cost of the vials of medicine is not known on the international markets, since countries were required to sign a confidentiality agreement that prevents the disclosure of price. The situation obtains since governments have been outbidding each other to get access to the vaccines, among other factors. At least this is according to the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony. APNU-AFC Shadow Minister for the sector, Dr. Karen Cummings, sought a query from the minister whether the administration had in fact managed to procure enough of the coveted COVID-19 vaccines. This is in addition to ascertaining from the substantive minister the factors that influenced the purchase of the AstraZeneca, Sputnik V, and the Sinopharm in preference to the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. To this end, Dr. Anthony informed the House that while there was an agreement with COVAX for vaccines to cater for some 20% of the population, COVAX had difficulty fulfilling this commitment because of the global shortage and funding difficulties. As such, he disclosed that this quota has not been filled. Now for your COVID-19 update, the Ministry of Health yesterday reported that 2 women who tested positive for the virus have died. According to the ministry, the latest fatalities are that of a 54-year-old from Region 4 and a 55-year-old from Region 2. As a result of this, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 549. 24 new infections were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 22,643. 12 patients are admitted into the COVID-19 ICU. 87 persons are in institutional isolation, 648 in home isolation, and 2 in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 22,327 have recovered from the virus. Just before we wrap things up, let's head over to the page 7 of the Kaieteur News dedicated to being blunt. ExxonMobil has caught some of our political leaders real good. Exxon sits back and smirks, no ring fencing provisions. This means the company gets to charge and pass on old costs, inflated costs, unverified costs, costs on future projects, and maybe even some imaginary costs to the Guyanese people. Despite calls to change this state of affairs, our leaders remain silent. Why are we making ourselves such a laughing stock in the eyes of ExxonMobil? And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Guyana, I have a question for you. Who goes into a business with a partner in which he gives you a limited time to verify the bills he's spending? Well, that is what ExxonMobil and the oil people doing to us. Yes, it is Raphael Trotman who signed that agreement in which Guyana has only 2 years to check and verify all expenses Exxon threw at us. When all over the world, oil countries demands no less than 5 years to do their checking, Guyana settled for 2. Guyana has gotten over 10 billion US dollar in bills so far from Liza 1 and Liza 2. And the 2 years already expire on us to check that. So we have to accept and pay that like an idiot, like a fool. Yes. Yes. Now, brothers and sisters, we have the third project, Payara, in which another 10 billion US dollar in bills have been thrown at us to check. And the time is already running out too on this one to check. And what are we hearing from Jagdeo, the vice president? Yes, them now trying to put together a team to check it, to verify these bills. Man, something is wrong. Something is wrong in this country. 6 years now we discover oil, and these financial gurus can't put together an audit team on to now. What a Guyana this is. What a way to run country, guys. You doing business with a partner, and he gives you 1 week to check the bills, and if you don't check it within that time, you have to accept whatever he throws at you. What is going on here in this country, guys? So if he buys a bundle bora, let's say for $10,000, a tin of baby milk for $6,000, a gallon of rice for $5,000, a hammer for $25,000, or a spade for 20 grand, and you don't check it on time, you have to pay that. You hear me? You have to pay it. This is what our leaders telling this nation, guys, telling me and you. Guys, you gotta wake up. We need to wake up. We need to say something. We need to do something now and quickly before it's too late. Stop running around for 25,000 COVID money, hamper money, in which you can get $2.5 million every month by just speaking out against this highway robbery that is being committed by ExxonMobil and our backward leaders, slothful leaders we have, both of them. So if Guyana don't find a team in time, brothers and sisters, to check this other $10 billion from Payara, cat yam, all of we dinner with those bills. Guys, not even a prep student would sign terms and conditions like that in a contract. Agreeing to just 2 years for check billions upon billions of American dollars, man. Hear how much more sickening this robbing contract gets. All those expenses, those costs, let's say tallied up to $100 million a day, the oil company is allowed to take out 75% of that every day before profit is shared. So out of the $100 million, they take out $75 million, then profits is shared. So each party gets $12.5 million each. Guyana get 12.5, while they walk away with $87.5 million a day. Guys, if you're worried about what you just heard, just listen to this. Out of we $12.5 million we get, Raphael Trotman agreed in the contract that Guyana will pay Exxon taxes out of that. Yes, take out 25% taxes of that figure, Guyana leaves with barely 9 million. So ExxonMobil walks away with 91 million out of the 100, and Guyana is left to settle with 9 million. That's business. Brothers and sisters, that is business. That's what is going on every day in this land by our leaders, and every single one of them is silent. How much more can we take, man? Join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to talk about these types of business this country going on with. Namaste to all of you.
Good morning, good day. It's Wednesday, August 4th.